soul stirs. The Lou Rawls come from, the soul stirs. They come out of the church, Luther, Aretha, all grounded in the church. You saw it in their funeral the other day of our dear sister Whitney. You can tell when they step through the piano which ones had the real thing and which one just on the surface. Because the coffin was there. This ain't no show. You better come with it. You better have something to say. You better express your voice in such a way that you can sustain somebody from womb to tomb. This ain't no stage just to be stimulating bodies. That's what's so sad about the death of Whitney. There's a sense in which the very soulful tradition of love that she represented was already dying before she died. Because on the market is not worth that much. And these days, everything's for sale, everybody's for sale. And if it doesn't have a high price, people don't want to pay attention to it. That's what we're going to get to. We get the young folk. See, this is the world the young folk dealing with. This is the world of us young folk born and look around and see stimulation, titillation. The culture of superficial spectacle is all about appearance. It's all about that thin stuff, that bubblegum music. It's just to live on the surface. Don't want to get too deep. Don't want to get too profound because it might hurt too much. Because when you're on the surface, it's just about your convenience and your comfort and your contentment. You don't want to be unsettled. You don't want to be unhoused. You don't want to be fundamentally transformed. You just want it the way you like it. We end up with a whole generation of young people who in the end what they really want to be is just peacocks. Look at my success. I'm somebody very narcissistic, very hedonistic. You can hear grandmama saying peacock strut because they can't fly. No, we need eagles. We need some eagles among our young folk. We need folk who can fly and then keep track of folk still stuck in the basement. Don't tell me about somehow you the only Negro to break the glass ceiling and everybody ought to be obsessed with you when your cousin's locked into the prison industrial complex and you got other cousins locked in the hood and can't make it because of too many bullets and too many guns and too many drugs flowing back and forth, families shattered, communities weak and feeble, bombarded with television that's saying, stimulate, consume, stimulate, consume. Our young folk are dealing with forms of spiritual malnutrition that I don't know about. Because I may have grew up on the chocolate side of town, which I did, but I grew up in a neighborhood, not a hood. Oh yeah. And in that neighborhood, a lot of love, because I know I am who I am, because somebody loved me. You are who you are. Somebody loved you. They cared for you. They attended to you. They targeted you. And it wasn't always just mom and dad. It could be somebody down the way. Could be a deacon. Could be a little league teacher. Could be a jazz musician. Somebody keeping track of you. That's a neighborhood. Now financially, we were broke as the 10 Commandments. We didn't have too much money. But nobody did, so we didn't even know we were poor. But we had ties of empathy. We had bonds of sympathy. We had a concern and a care for others outside of just ourselves, our narrow egocentric predicament. But a hood is a different place. Hood is survival of the slickest. Obsessed with the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught. Just get over by any means. And where do they learn it from? Well, where do young folk learn that from? They don't drop from the skies. They look up to society. And they say, oh, I see how the game is played. I don't see a lot of folk concerned about integrity. I don't see a lot of folk concerned about their dignity. They just trying to get over too. They look at Wall Street. They see criminal behavior. market manipulation, insider trading, perjury, fraud, but nobody goes to jail. Nobody. Oh, let Jamal get caught with that crack bag. He's going straight into the prison industrial complex, and if he snitches, some of his friends are going with him. Looks at the U.S. government. Well, we got torturers, but we turning the page. We just keep moving. You didn't move that way when Letitia got caught. You went back to her racket. Made it difficult for her to even get a job when she came out. Couldn't gain access to public housing because she had that felony always hunting her down all the time. We need to have folk who love the people enough and love everyday people enough to try to tell them the truth. To be honest, to be candid. And if we have the audacity to be Christians, we ought to be the freest human beings in the world, because we just in the world, not of it anyway. We just passing through anyway. We just pilgrims anyway. But our young people hungry for the real thing. But so many of them unloved, uncared for, shattered families. There's many strong black fathers. I see. Let's give a hand to all the strong black fathers. Very important. Strong black fathers. But we know other fathers drifted, wrestling with unemployment, wrestling with underemployment, wrestling with their insecure male egos because they can't engage in enough sexual conquest of the sisters. That's always a sign of immaturity, isn't it? You got to dominate somebody else. You got to manipulate somebody else. So our young folk these days sing what? Say my name, say my name, say my name. How sick and pathological can that be on a certain level? What about Otis Redding? Try a little tenderness. Just try a little tenderness. Tenderness is what love feels like in private. This is very important, because when I was coming along Shiloh Baptist Church, I couldn't wait to get to church to get hugged. You remember those days? Because people had a concern about me. And I wasn't the only one to hug. They hugged all of us in vacation, Bible school, and Sunday school. What did that do? It gave me a sense of affirmation, acknowledgement, recognition. That's why I didn't have a love deficit. Oh, yes. Oh, no, I don't have a love deficit. I could go through 3 lifetimes, and I got leftover love. That's what came into me. From family, from Shiloh, from my teachers, and being grounded in the blood. Which means I got my freedom for 3 lifetimes. Oh, yes. But how do we pass that on to the younger generation? I speak to young folk all across the country, and the first thing I tell them is, you're so precious. You're so priceless. Let me give you a hug. And they say, this Negro's crazy. Maybe that Frodo messed him up. I say, no, that's how I roll. That's how I roll. That's right. I'm a child of the King. All our young folk need to just, every time they see older folk, be affirmed, encouraged, endorsed. Because you see, when it comes to schooling and education, it leads directly into the tradition that I'm talking about. You know, the country with the #1 scores in the world, and none of the students even take tests for scores until the end of their high school years. But it's Finland. See, America needs to study Finland. What is it about Finland that they're #1 every here. But the first thing they do is, when the students come into class, tell them how wonderful, smart, brilliant they are, and that the sky is the limit for you. And you know, black folks used to do that years ago in the black colleges and the black churches. Even if you're not brilliant, you just get told you brilliant enough time, you say, I got to do something brilliant just to affirm it. I thought I'm mediocre, my grades are, but she keeps telling me I'm brilliant. You watch me this time. That makes the difference. That's spiritual. That's psychic. That's existential. That's what Finland does. Then they have small classrooms, 14 in every class. Then they have a teacher and a teacher's aide in every class. 97% of their teachers are unionized. So it couldn't just be the teachers' union. You know, these days people talk about the teachers' union getting in the way because they want teachers to be accountable. I believe teachers ought to be accountable. Ain't no doubt about that. No doubt about that. I know my brother Perry's going to be here tomorrow. You give that brother a hug for me because we've been loving each other and disagreeing for a long time. That's all right. We don't all need to agree. That's not the point. We're trying to learn from each other. Exactly. Because he's preoccupied with bad teachers, bad teachers, bad teachers. I said, brother, I had mainly good teachers in my life, so I got different examples. But of course there's some bad teachers, but you know what? There's some bad folk who's running some of these municipal districts. There's some principals that need accountability. There's some parents that need accountability. Oh yeah. There's governments that need accountability. Look at our priorities. In Finland, the top graduates of the colleges become teachers. In America, they become investment bankers. It's a different culture, isn't it? The salaries of the teachers are higher. And when a teacher walks into a room in Finland anywhere, they say, there goes the caretaker of our precious children. Give them a standing ovation. They're shaping their hearts and their minds and their souls. You know, it used to be like that in Black America over 75 years ago if you were a teacher. Oh, yeah, you could be a Sunday school teacher. One of the greatest scholars in the history of the 20th century was a brother named John Henry Clark, one of the great Pan-Africanists of our day. And when he was growing up, all he wanted to do was just be head of the Sunday school department. Because there was a nobility in the profession, or really the vocation of teaching. That's what it still is in Finland. These days in America, if you're a teacher, you walk in the room, what would the folks say? Oh, we praying for you. Well, you're going to burn out soon. I'm telling you, we don't know how long. Now, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, my brother Mark. Oh, Lord, you a teacher? My dear brother, he just took over the 7th grade just recently. Well, that's how deep your love is. And you know, salary is low. Status called into question. And I'm sure many of your folk in corporate America say, we got to pray for Brother Mark. We think he's lost his money. Giving up all those benefits. Something warped about the priorities. But then we have put $1.5 trillion in a Marshall Plan in jails and prisons and the criminal justice system. So we're told we don't have money for quality schools or quality housing or jobs with a living wage or even quality health care. But when it comes to jails and prisons and the prison industrial complex, that's $500 billion spent. Something's warped in our priorities. Keep Sweat moment. Something just ain't right. It's true. In the larger context, 1% of the population owns 42% of the wealth. The top 400 individuals have wealth equivalent to the bottom 150 million. And it's growing every day. And the result is what? Our precious children, love deficit on the one hand, economically abandoned, socially neglected, and under intense police surveillance. 62% of those in the prison industrial complex in there for drugs. Chocolate side of town, 13% of our precious children flying high in the friendly skies. Drugs. Vanilla side of town, our white brothers and sisters, 13% of their precious children flying high in the friendly sky. Black folks, 62% of conviction. That's where the intense police surveillance is. If you keep real close contact, you're going to catch them. Not a whole lot of police surveillance on Wall Street. Nobody prosecuted. Exactly. Not a whole lot of police surveillance in vanilla suburbs. Even though you got a lot of drug activity going on, I tell my Princeton students that all the time. I said, I see what you're doing on Friday and Saturday night. It's just not Jamal and teaching them doing that stuff. But they don't even think about getting caught because there's no surveillance. So you get differential treatment, arbitrary rule of law, racist criminal justice system. And our young people feel what? Abandoned. Who will protect me? Who cares for me? I ask young folk all the time, who in your life will die for you? Mama? Daddy? When they're strong, like the ones in this room, go up right away. The ones who are drifting. What about your friends? 58% of our young brothers, black brothers, between 18 and 26, 58% say they do not have a friend, a best friend upon whom they can rely. Do you know what life is like trying to go through life without a best friend? And we wonder why they got gang activity? They're looking for a sense of belonging. They're looking because they want to be protected. Just like if you end up in prison and these folk coming at you, all of a sudden you join the gang. They probably got a strong, well, not that many Pentecostals in jail, but if Pentecostals are there, they got strong gang activity in the jail. Bring your Bible every day. We got some gangsters up in here, they're going to come at you. They may even sexually assault you. I know the Muslims are very strong in the prison. You get a whole lot of Christians who become Muslim quick. It's not a theological decision. They don't want to get beat up and raped and violated.